Hey, everybody, welcome back to episode 36 of the Overlay, a poker podcast. Not even going to hit up the sponsors today.
What?
Yeah, I'm just not going to say it. I feel like I say the same opening every time, and I want to have a different opening today.
Okay, I like it.
So thank you to all our listeners. This might be the last episode of 2020, which is kind of dope because I hate 2020. It really is.
I'm ready to get out of 2020.
Yeah, my wife's like, I can't wait for 2021. I was like, it's not like we're going to go 3, 2, 1 and like Y2K is going to happen and
like
something.
Snap your fingers.
Did I ever tell you my Y2K story?
No, but I just saw on SportsCenter that Tiger's playing with his son Charlie in a tournament.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
It starts it's like the 19th and the 20th or something. It's like a exhibition-y kind of tournament. It's like the PNC father and son. It's not like a real tournament. I mean, it's a real tournament,
sure.
But it's not.
He's 11 years old. Who cares? It's awesome,
dude. It's so sick. And on Twitter, it was blowing up. We can wrap this up for like gambling. This lady was like, "I'm making a $500 bet." Parlay bet on Tiger Woods and his 11-year-old son, and then she was like, "I've done worse than bet money on an 11-year-old kid, haven't I?" And I was just like, "It's so funny because it's so true." I can't wait till DraftKings and be like, "All right, let's put $800 on TW Junior here and see what he can do."
Yeah, on Charlie, see what's up.
Yep, and then like John Daly Jr. plays it. It's so good. It's like one of the most fun like crappy tournaments that's out there. It's probably why they do it around this time of year. It's awesome. Yeah, right. Anyways, episode 36, poker math. Introduction to poker math, or are we just going to do like all poker math today? It's pretty broad to say all poker math.
Well, I got 6 different things we're going to hit up today. So we're going to start with some pot odds, which is simple, basic. Most people know it, but maybe you don't. So we're going to, reinforce your ability to calculate some pot odds. Then we're going to use those same pot odds and see if you have the right odds to bluff and how much percent your bluff needs to work in order to bluff the river.
And then I never do that.
Then we're going to talk briefly about implied odds because implied odds gets a little messy with the math and it's really hard to kind of actually quantify implied odds because it's kind of making a bunch of assumptions that you need to make. It's all individually. It depends on the spot. And then we have value betting. And then we have set mining because I think people set mine a little bit more than they should mathematically speaking, because everybody looks down at pocket twos and is like, I want to ruin this guy. I want to flop a 2. But maybe sometimes you should be folding the 2s. So we'll go into that. And then last but not least, we have another simple concept to wrap it up on like setting up river shoves. And you should be thinking about bet sizing to get to the river to make a river shove. And I don't think people really wrap their head around it and do the math to get there with their stack. And that's it.
Nice.
Yeah. So we got a fun little episode on math. Before we start, I do want to say a 20-second degenerate gambling story. Nice. That when I was 21 years old and in college, me and my buddy would get up and we would fill Gatorade bottles, half Gatorade, half vodka, and we would go to the Little League field at 9 a.m. and we would watch the pitchers warm up and bet $100 on Little League games. As random, didn't know any of the kids. We were 21, they were 12.
Yeah, that's the parents. Good.
It was so fun, and the parents by the night games, we were like
hammered,
drunk, and we were just screaming at these kids to laugh when he hits a base hit, and these parents are like, "Who are these kids?" I mean, and we were just exchanging $100. It was great. So if you ever really want to have some excitement in your life, don't
really feel what a degenerate gambler should be like. You're a borderline going to Gamblers Anonymous meetings. That's a good place to start. Little League baseball.
Yeah. Little League baseball is where it's at.
I mean, everybody bets on football. Like my mom bets the over and under on the Bears game. Like that's just normal.
I bet 1,000 on the Super Bowl. Cool.
Right.
So does everybody.
Like try to losing $2,800 throwing ping pong balls into a cardboard box.
All right, poker math.
That's episode. It's in there somewhere. It's the good God.
You should be if you're listening to this episode right now and haven't listened to the degenerate gambling episode, just pause right now. Listen to that one and come back for the poker math. You can't even play poker right now, so you can use my math in 2 months. Listen to those degenerate stories right now. All right, you ready?
Yeah, poker math.
All right. I mean, I'm just this is basically like the Brandon show here. You're just going to agree with me.
Well, I'm going to argue with you and see what's what.
You're going to argue with me?
From there.
All right, good.
Yeah,
I like that.
Why can I not find the prop bet number. What the hell episode was the prop bet?
I think it was really early.
Yeah.
Like 14, 12. Maybe like 4. I don't know. You keep looking.
Yeah, go ahead. Poker math. What are we starting with?
We're starting with pot odds.
Okay.
Pot odds, simple concept of how much you have to put into the pot compared to how much is in the pot. And if those odds match up with the percentage you are to win the pot with your hand. Very simply, example, if there is $10 in the pot and your opponent bets $5 on the river, you are getting the pot odds price of 3-1 on your money because you have to put in $5 to collect their $15.
Episode 13, how you lose money throwing a Gatorade bottle. Anyways, go ahead.
What did I say, 12, 14?
Yeah, that was close. 13? You literally hopped right over it.
I did.
So,
I like
pot odds.
Better. Right. It's a simple concept. If you're getting the right price on your money. So, like I said, if you had to put in $5 to collect the guy's $15 that's in the pot,
right,
you're getting a 3-1 price.
Meaning you
say, yeah, I get that, and like everybody knows that. So, what does that mean?
Right.
Well, that means that you need to be 25%. Like your hand needs to be good 25% of the time in order to justify that call when you're getting 3-1. And you ask, how do you get 25%, Brandon?
Yes. Well, how do you get 25%, Brandon?
It's basically you count the $5 that you're putting in the pot too. So it's 5 over 20 because there's $10 in the pot. There's the opponent's $5 that they bet on the river, and then it's your $5 that's in the pot too. So it's 5 over 20, which is 1/4, which is 25%. And
then when you say you need to have a 25% chance of winning, how do you calculate that? Let's just make it simple and give it a scenario here. You're on the river. I got whatever,
so
2 pair.
The river's the hardest because you can't like calculate your outs.
Okay.
Like if it's the turn and you know you have a flush draw, you have 9
let's say the outs. Like, do I have 20%. Pot odds to call? What hand do I need to have where I'm getting 3-1 on my money? 25% of the time I need to win the hand to make this a profitable bet, or really. That's not true. I need to be better than 25% to make a profitable choice.
25% is the exact break even.
Is the break even, right? Which is still fine. You could be at 25% and go, I can call here because the odds are I'm going to, this is not a negative EV, not a positive EV. It's just a break even.
You're just gambling. It's a break even point, and it's just basically like game flow. Like if you got 100 big blinds, you might want to take this spot that's even. If you got 12 big blinds,
probably you're not gaining much here, right?
You're gaining nothing.
Yeah, you're right.
In the long run in math, you break even in your chip stack.
Which again, if you said your tournament life is on the line, and at best case scenario you're going to break even on this call, if you just put it that way, what would you say?
You want to fold.
I fold. I'm not going to do that. Like,
right. I want to put my tournament life when I'm 100% on the river.
Right. I'm going to shoot you. You got a 1 in 4 chance of getting killed. Best case scenario, you just break even.
I'm out.
Yeah, no dice. I don't get $1 million.
I mean, I double up. No,
you just get to continue going on. Like that's it.
Right.
You don't gain anything. You still have your shitty life and a broken Porsche and no job and nowhere to get my hair cut.
Nowhere to get your hair cut.
And I bought a new razor, like a stubble razor clipper for my beard that it got caught in my beard and it ripped out of nice chunks and I got like a missing. Yeah, it's awful.
You know, I screwed up shaving my beard the other day. I just shaved it all off.
The funniest thing is my dad did it once. Poker. This is mustache math right here.
Mustache math.
Fuck, that's a great name for something. We got to find a way to use mustache math. But anyways, my dad's always had facial hair. Mustache, goatee. You guys all know long ball. Most of the old school CCG folks know who long ball is. If not, you've heard long ball stories. The man's a legend in his own right. And he's always had some kind of facial hair, either a beard, Fu Manchu, what's the one that's good God. Anyways, he's always got some kind of facial hair. I came home from college and he said he was trimming his mustache on the right and it got a little short. He's like, damn, it's uneven. And then he trimmed it on the left and he had to trim it on the right. He just kept trying to even it out. It was just cockeyed the whole time. He does have one eye, so I mean he has a reason to do this. And he got done and he goes, I look like Adolf Hitler. He goes, I got a Hitler mustache. I can't go to work with the Hitler mustache. So he ended up just shaving the whole thing off. My sister, Allison, would not. She like literally was like, I am leaving. I am not coming home until that mustache is back. His whole face looked completely different. Like it looked, he looked like a different guy. Like in the movies, when Clark Kent just puts on glasses and you're like, oh, bro, where'd Superman go? He's gone. Like my dad, if he committed murder and his wanted picture was up on a wall with a mustache and he just shaved the mustache, he could walk around scot-free. Nobody would ever find him. It's completely different.
It's so funny because I walked into your sister's house the other day after I shaved, and the literally first thing she says is, "What happened to your face?" Yeah. I was like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "I'll see you in 2 weeks when your beard comes back." I was like, "Gee, thanks." Exactly. Anyways,
pot odds.
Back on track. So, I mean,
what
basically,
hand, my question was, what hand? Because this helps me understand. If I have 3-1 odds here on the turn, what hand do I need to have to be better than 25%? Like, how do I count my outs to know?
So it's easy with draws because, I mean, your outs are just on the river. Basically, it's really easy when you have flush draws because you got 9 flush outs. And then it really depends on if you're going to count, like if you have the ace high flush draw and it's a queen high board, if you're going to count your 3 aces as outs too.
So you got 9 outs plus maybe 3 outs. So let's just say it's a flush draw. I've got 9 outs. How do I calculate 9 outs is how much percentage? Like what?
So if you're on the turn and you got 1 rip at it, easiest way to do some monkey math in your head, which Brandon monkey math is pretty good. You times it by 2 and then you add a little bit more. So it's like 9 would be 18, and then you just say about 20%.
You juice it up just 21%. A little bit.
Just a little bit, because it's a little bit more than double. Yeah. And it's the same thing when you're on the flop and you have a flush draw. It's 4 times your outs with a little bit more. So 4 times.
I never knew that. I always knew the 2% thing, but I guess that's after the turn.
Because if you think about it, everybody knows that you're 5% with the 2 outer, right? If you have one shot at aces versus kings and you're fading to the river, it's 5%. Well, that's 2 outs times 2, which is 4 plus.
It's really like more. 2 and a hook,
5. Right? But when you're on the flop, a 2 outer is 9. It's 9% because we know this math. Wow, aces versus kings.
This
you break the
mustache
flop.
math has gone crazy.
Well, it is. I mean, it's 9. If you have aces versus kings and you break the flop and you get it all in, you're 9% with kings on the flop. So 9% is 2 outs times 4, which is 8, and a little bit more, which is 9. And then you brick the turn, and now you're 5% to hit the river, which is 2 outs times 2, which is 4, plus a little bit more.
I'm right.
So you add a percent.
I'm right.
You add a percent or 2.
Yeah, I'm writing this down on my index card that you get to take to all tournaments. Like when you're in college and you get like one note card, you can write whatever you want on it to make sure that, like this is what I would write on it. If you're on the flop, it's 4 times your outs plus a little bit more. And if it's on the turn, you got 2x plus a little bit more. So 4x on the flop, 2x on the turn. If it's on the river, you ain't getting any more outs. So you either got it or you don't.
So you got to assess. So when you're on the river, you just need to assess your opponent's range, and you got to say, man, are they how much percent are they bluffing here, and how much percent are they value betting worse hands? I mean, when you have top 2 pair, it's pretty simple that like I'm going to beat a lot of value bets and I'm going to beat all these bluffs. So certainly I'm greater than 25%. Obviously, it's going to be a call, maybe even a raise because you have a really strong hand.
Right. When that gets down a little bit further when we talk about like our other picks.
A little bit. No, I mean, you need to use your pot odds on the river to like make sound decisions.
I didn't put those two together. I didn't.
River's included, right? Like if you're getting these pot odds on the river, you need to make sure that you're running through the list of possible hands that beat you and the list of possible hands that you beat, and that's how you come up. This is the part where the math is not set in stone. This is where you need to kind of use
you got to go back to like pre-flop play and post-flop play and like what happened.
And this is where you're assigning ranges.
This is where I always screw up because I'm always
this is where you screw up.
This is a great spot to bluff. And then I'm like, wait, what was I representing the whole time from the beginning? I always throw a bluff in super late. And you got to set the thing up. But you didn't
tell the story right from the start.
Correct. It's like the rookie of the year. Like, you got to be able to set the idea up. Like, I got to get into my position where I'm holding the ball and I'm looking at the guy and I'm getting the counts. And then all of a sudden I was like, I don't have the ball. And then the first baseman tags him. But, like, I never set it up. Like, the guy knows I don't have the ball, that the first baseman has the ball.
And so he just stays on
he ain't going to get off first base. Like, hey, dummy, it ain't going to work. Stop playing this charade. Literally, I know you're full of shit. I never realized that part. But anyways, go ahead. Poker odds. I like this one. Pot odds.
Yeah, I know. I like it too. So I mean, basically, I keep kind of repeating myself because I don't really know what I've said because we've talked about mustaches and baseball cards.
Mustache math.
Anyways, so you can kind of use that inverse strategy that we just talked about with pot odds to bluffing on the river. Now, if you're in the other person's shoes, you need to say, all right, there's $100 in the pot. If I bet $50 on the river here and I'm bluffing, how much percent does my bluff have to work for this to be profitable? Well, that's 33 because it's 50 over 150. So my bluff here on the river, if I'm betting 50 into 100, it has to work 33% of the time for me to be profitable. Can I pull this off with what I'm representing in my range and what my opponent has in his range to where he's going to fold 33% of the time? And notice that you can get picked off. If you're going to get picked off 10% of the time on this river bluff, it's a good bluff.
Right.
It's not saying that it's not foolproof. Like, you guys need to understand that you really don't need to be results oriented. You just need to have solid math behind your decisions. And just because you got picked off on the river there with a pair of twos
doesn't mean it was a bad
doesn't
play.
Mean it's not a bad.
You can lose the hand and still have made the right play
mathematically.
Correct. 100%.
Which is conceptually
very difficult
for people. And it's beyond, everybody understands that, I got it in 80-20 and I lost. The guy hit a set of twos on my aces, and he hit a set of twos and beat me. Like, conceptually, they can be like, I played it right. But they can't go down to the next level and be like, I bluffed in a good spot here and got called by a good call. It was still a good bluff, because they don't see it because their chips are gone. Right. And the guy's stacking his chips and was like, that was obvious.
It's hard to be kind of objective and take yourself out of the equation, or take the money side out of it and be like, where do the actual chips go? Like, was this a good idea? Was this a good play? And be like, yeah, it didn't work out, you know?
Right. So,
or the idea is when you're 80-20, like, you're going to lose 20% of the time. That's just the way it is. Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you get aces versus kings in the WSOP 5 straight times, like, mathematically, you're going to lose one.
Right. You're probably going to lose more than one, hard. But yeah.
Right. So basically, the moral of this early story is, if you bet $100 bluffing into a $100 pot in the river, well, now it's 1 over 2. So now you need to be right 50% of the time. So the more you bet, the more you have to be right based on the math.
You mean on a bluff, or just in general?
On a bluff.
Yeah.
Sorry, my throat's.
COVID.
Yeah, no COVID over here.
It's so funny that now when anybody sneezes, the new go-to is not
COVID.
God bless you. It's just COVID.
Yeah, or they cough. It's like COVID.
COVID.
But, I mean,
God bless
you.
Gesundheit.
Gesundheit. Nope, COVID.
Would you like a napkin? No.
Nope, I just don't want COVID.
COVID. Ew, COVID. Get away from me. Anyways, go ahead. We only got a little bit of time left, 2020. It's like 15 days. We are 15 days away.
I know. So the more you bluff on the river, the bigger your sizing, the more right you have to be. If you bluff $10 into a $100 pot, well, whatever 1 over 11, that's 9.1919% or whatever. I just made that up, but I think that's right. If you're bluffing $10 on the river, you only need to get this bluff through 9% of the time. If you bluff $200 out of the river into a $100 pot, well, now this bluff needs to work 66% of the time, because that's 200 over 300. Again, it's the pot plus what you're putting in the pot. In the numerator is how much you're putting in the pot. So the more, the bigger your sizing, the more it needs to work out for you. So you need to adjust your sizings based on
how likely it is that you think this is going to get through.
Correct. And that's right. And so, like, if you're just trying to put a little, I'm going to bet $20 into 100.
Nope,
see if it
just
works.
me. I got a feeling. I got a feeling poker.
Right. This is what I was going to get into later.
Which is so funny, because when I play Pot Limit Omaha in a tournament, I feel like my mustache math is phenomenal. My track record for tournaments in PLO is so good. I don't do I feel like I got a good spot. Like
the cool thing about poker is that you cannot understand any of the stuff that I'm saying and still be good.
Yeah. Because
like the feeling is like, it's real. Like, playing on feel is real. It's like, I don't care that I'm getting the wrong price here. Like, this guy's bluffing, I'm calling. And it's like, you made a mistake in theory, but like, theory is only theoretical. Like, in theoretical dollars, I'm up millions of dollars playing poker. I'm sitting here in
theoretical dollars, I'm a bajillionaire. Yeah.
Correct. So clearly theory only goes so far. So feel is cool because you can just take this math and throw it right out the window and still be a good poker player.
I don't want to say this outright because I don't want to alienate any of our wonderful, loyal listeners. However, I feel like most bad poker players, and I'm thinking of a specific person who just always takes bad beats. They do exactly what you did in reverse, being like, I know this guy's full of shit, and they make bad plays and then blame the 80-20s of the world for the reason of why they're losing, rather than trying to objectively take yourself out of the equation and look at it from the outset, being like, did I actually have the right price to do this, or the right odds to call, or the right percentage to put this bluff in, even though the guy should have never called? Like, I set it up perfectly. You could set up a perfect bluff from freaking Doug Polk against some mop $20 early bird player who never played a tournament his entire life. It doesn't mean that person's going to fold. Like, even though 90% you should be good here, sometimes you lose. And I feel like the guys that go on monkey tilt are the ones that just don't understand or are unwilling to take that as a
need
fact.
to learn the math just for the simple fact that you can justify to yourself that what you did is correct.
Right.
Which is huge because you got tilt factors, you got people punt off chips more than you'd ever believe.
Oh, I'm an NFL first round draft pick punter.
Fourth and that, and I do it too. I mean, when you were playing in that PLO tournament, I was playing that monster stack.
I remember.
I had 400,000.
It was so bad I didn't even say anything. I didn't even make fun of you. I didn't even make fun of you. It was so bad. I just threw you a pumpkin, and I was like, okay, see you, Brando.
Yeah, it was like you guys were three-handed, and I was chip leading this whole thing. And then I finished the tournament. I was out before you guys played your heads-up match.
Yep.
Right. And you were just like, Brando, you're out? I'm like, I just
punted. I wanted to watch the finals.
And you know what? If I just would have sat down and thought to myself and been like, these three plays I made in these three hands were all right. I still have chips. Everything's going to be okay. Brandon, you did everything right. Don't tilt at this idiot drinking a Bud Light. It just got all your chips. But it just the mental game is so crazy in poker, which I think the math reinforces that. And if you can just stop and think for a second, be like, you know what? This is right. I don't care that I lost. It's going to be good in the long run, and move on. That's just such a better mentality for poker. But we're going to move on because I think this is an interesting one.
Can we do a mental game, another episode of the mental side of poker? Because
yes, I have a really good friend who's read 3 mental books, mental poker. They're supposed to be life-changing. 3, it's the same guy that did a series of 3 books. It's our Bitcoin guy. He read the mental game of poker, which, by the way, Bitcoin guys, 23,500. We will have a Bitcoin episode at some point.
Yes,
when
we're working on it.
and or Kenny figures out how it works.
We still don't know.
I mean, we still don't know, and we've had money in it for 10 years. But
no idea.
Anyways, set mining. I want to go over a couple things
Next
about
idea,
set mining.
Set mining.
So,
for those of us who don't know, I know what it is, but could you?
Oh, wow!
Aliens invasion?
Yeah, that's somebody. Amazon Prime here with a package.
Oh, that was your crazy doorbell, bro?
That was my they were trying to buzz into my.
That was great. It sounded like an alien
really was.
Death ray.
I know. Every time somebody's on the phone with me, they're like, "What was that?
What was that? Are we being attacked?" Indiana's the first place. I call that bluff because there's 0% chance Indiana's the first place they attack.
Then you'd be good.
Maybe it
checks
is.
Out.
I don't know. It's pretty crazy.
So
all right,
what
set
were you saying
mining.
about
Tell
set
me
mining?
what set mining is.
So, basically it goes back to 1949 when people are, mining for gold and they're chucking along in the caves in California. I think this is the gold rush. I just made this all up, U.S. history.
I think it's a little earlier than that, but go ahead.
No, because the San Francisco 49ers, I think they were called after the gold rush. I don't know. I'm making this stuff up. Anyways, it's basically where you're going to take your small little pocket pair that is relatively weak, and most flops, 88% of flops, in fact, are going to miss you, and you are just going to give up and fold your hand because it's a measly pair of 3s on an ace-jack-4 board. But you're going to take the chance that you're going to tink and strike gold and flop a set, which would be a third 3 if you have pocket 3s, or you're going to flop a set or trips. It's not really trips, but you flop 3 of a kind with a pocket pair into your hand. And then the theory here is that it's going to be very hidden. sets are extremely strong in Hold'em, a little less strong in PLO, but in Hold'em, I mean, you flop a set, it's tough to fold no matter what. I mean, you ain't folding.
Set over set. I didn't drive happens, to the whole.
Yeah,
right. The set over set happens so many more times in PLO. I cannot tell you how many times the flop is like,
King Jack 6 and just jacks against sixes.
Correct. And I have sixes. I hate bottom pair. I won't even play the bottom set, but I'm talking to like kings versus jacks. Like I've got jacks and the guy's got kings, and you just out. You just lose your money. Goodbye.
Yes.
Run it twice so I can get stabbed in the heart 2 times, because that's what I want when I've got one out, is to run it twice. Remember that time against Dapkus where I called with the middle set and binked a 4 on the first river?
Do.
It was for like a 5K pot. It was a huge, huge pot. And Dapkus was the one who said, "Hey, bro, let's run it twice." And I was like, "Really? Like, you've got me down to 1-4. I have a 4. That's the only card I can
why
get."
He wants to run it twice. So there's theories.
I was like ecstatic. I was like, "Hell yeah, give it to me twice." And he was just like, I was like, "Of course I'm willing to. Why would I say no to that? Like, I'm the one at the 2%."
So the people, the theory there is, you can only win the pot once. So why run it twice?
Right. Oh, for me, the one out.
For you, it's like, I got one out. I can never scoop this pot. Right. I'm just going to run it once. But if it's 3 ways or something, or even if it's like a 5K pot like that, I'll run it twice just to get my money back. Or, if it's 3 ways, you still win with half the pot. Like, I get it. If it's a $400 pot and you can only win once, just, all right, you got me cooler. Run it once. Like, if I
always run it multiple times. Like, I never
just to
say
get your money back.
Of course. Good or bad. I never say to myself, "Am I ahead or behind?" I always just go yes. If you want to run, like if I always let the other guy choose, but I'm always twice is fine. Like, if anybody's like, "What do you actually prefer?" 2 times is good. Like, I don't care, up or down. If I'm winning or losing, just rip it twice. It is what it is. Go from there. Anyways, back to set mining. So set mining in No Limit Hold'em. When do you need to have, like, what is the situation where you don't call a set mine? Let's try to get one of those ideas out.
So basically, you're looking for whatever price that you're being faced with pre-flop, that the person has at least 15 times that amount in their stack behind. And this kind of gets into the implied odds, where you're thinking that you're going to win a bigger pot. But so the monkey math here is at least 15x. So if you're going to call a $10 raise pre-flop, the effective stack needs to be at least 150.
When they say effective stack, what do they mean? Like, it's just the stack size. Like, why does it say effective stack?
Because if you have $1,000 and the guy has $200, it's a $200 effective stack. You're going to be playing the hand based on that $200 stack, not your $1,000 stack.
It's more about the idea of telling the story, so you get an idea of who's got the bigger chips.
No, it's more like, if you have, it doesn't matter if you have 100 big blinds.
I can have $1 million on the table. Blinds. All I can win here is that guy's $200. That's it.
Right. So you're going to be playing the math and the odds and the situation based on that stack. The effective stack of 20 bigs or $200, not your $1 million.
Gotcha.
So
really quick, what are the odds of a person flopping a set with any pocket pair?
12%.
Shit. Is it really?
Yep. 1 in 7.5.
I feel like I flop more than 12% of the time. But
it's like
1 out of 10, a little better.
It's more in PLO, but yeah.
1 out of 7?
It's 1 out of 7.5 in Hold'em. I think it's like 1 out of 5 or something in Hold'em, or in PLO. I don't know. It depends.
All right. So if, considering you only have a 12% chance of actually hitting it, give us the idea of this effective stack. Sorry, I derailed your math story, but go ahead.
It's okay. You're
$200.
Good. I'm just saying that you need to. They need
feel like
to
these
have
are the questions that the people want to know. I'm asking the people's questions.
They need to have enough behind for you to make it worth it to put in money with a hand that you're going to fold probably 88% of the time. I mean, every time you miss the flop on threes, you're done as soon as you're facing a bet.
You're looking for a 3 or get out.
Basically, like what, the 2, 4, 5 flop maybe, but again, like these are super rare. Like
even
exact.
I hate doing that.
Right. So basically, it's a 3 or fold, and that goes for any hand basically above. Under 8s, right? I mean, anything under 8s.
Yeah, I mean, I could see 9s where if you had all unders board, like a 6.
Well, yeah, 9s you're no longer 7 mining. Now you have a top 10 hand in poker. That's the 8s is kind of the cutoff where I'm striking for gold, and I have a little bit of gold in my hand already, and it's bonus if I flop a set.
Right.
So I do have a few more things. The more people that are behind you, the stronger your pocket pair needs to be in order to call a raise. So if Under the Gun makes it 12, let's just go easy math. He's got $400 and he makes it $10. He's got 40 times the amount of chips behind. So that's good. I mean, you're according to math, you should be calling here with all of your low pocket pairs to set mine that guy, and because you maybe have the implied odds to win all 400 of those dollars when you flop a set and have a very profitable hand. But you set yourself up to get squeezed in this 2020 of poker. A lot of people see that dead money out there and they look at Under the Gun raising, and then the next guy flatting with, you got it, pocket threes.
They know it.
He's like, man, they know it. And then they can squeeze you out.
They're playing in the hopes that you've got a middle pocket pair or a shitty pocket pair, and you're just going to dump your money. They can re-raise with their ace king and either scoop the pot up.
You just got your free money. Even though ace king is 50-50 against threes, they just owned you because you put in the pot. You put in money in the wrong spot. So you have to be aware of how many people are behind you and how many people have the ability to squeeze you. I mean, if it's all passive guys that just call, you can be less worried about it. But if you got Grinder Mike and you got a couple other guys that you got Greek John that likes to pop it up, and all
the aggressive, the super aggressive players, you got to be careful when you got that middle pocket pair or a baby pocket pair and you're just trying to set mine. You got to be aware of where you are, how many players are behind you. If you're Under the Gun +3 here, fold.
Right, but if you're in the small blind and the big blind is completing the action here, well, now it's like slam dunk, any pair.
Perfect idea.
Right. So
and it's Pat the Nit is your big blind. Man, what a sweet small blind is if Pat the Nit is your big blind.
It is true, because if he raises, you just get out.
Yeah, he might as well just show you his cards. Hey, Pat, let me see your cards. Cool. Let's go to the flop. He won some kind of points list. Pat the Nit is our number. I'm always throwing shout outs back out. We did another one earlier with him. It's early episodes, Pat the Nit, episode 19. Wow, episode 19. But anyways, he picked up Frisbee golf, frolf. What do you guys call it?
Yep. Both. Disc golf, Frisbee golf, frolf.
That's what I was thinking.
That's all of them.
He won some player of the year points list for disc golf that he just started playing in this year.
Yeah, it's really tilting.
Pro Tour shit.
Yeah, I know.
The kid's good at everything.
I had $100 a hole, him versus Manoli, and he lost.
And now he's like a Pro Tour winner. I think there's different levels of the disc golf pro. I don't really know where they are, but for golf.
But either way, if you're limited to pro, it doesn't matter. Even the bottom level.
If you're winning money playing disc golf, God bless you. Get your ass out there and throw some more discs. Episode 19. Check out Pat the Nit. He is the perfect nit stereotype player. All right. Set mining. Now we know when to not set mine. When is a good time to set mine? I guess when Pat the Nit's the big blind.
No, and anytime that, especially you're going to look at your player type. And another thing to look at is that the recreational players get way more value out of their set mines than the pros, because the recreational guys, they can have anything. They're the guys that you're putting on flush draws and bottom pairs and stuff like that, and they bluff a lot, and they're showing bluffs. So when they have the sets, you're just going to pay them off. That's just kind of a general rule. That's not really math. Right. But another rule for you is if you do call a raise and then you get squeezed out, you shouldn't be set mining anymore, because now your odds are bad. The pot's too big. Again, you're just punting these chips. 88% of the time. So just, you guys need to learn to, when you put money in with pocket threes, because the first guy raises and you call, that's okay. But when then that guy squeezes you out, just get squeezed out and lose your 2.5 or 3 or 4 big blinds that you put in the pot and move on. Don't put 12 big blinds in the pot trying to set mine unless you are super, super, super deep. A, and B, the guy should have a really tight 3-betting range for you to call, because you want him to have aces or kings, because you're going to have to hit a set to win anyways. So when you do hit a set, you want him to have aces and kings and not Jack 9 suited. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely.
So you really only want to be defending these 3-bets when you are A, super deep, and B, the guy has a minuscule 3-bet range. You don't want the guy that's squeezing you out like Greek John with Jack 8 suited. You don't want to play pots with pocket fives against him.
Against a super aggressive player, because the idea is he's not going to call if you hit your three, right? Like, you're not going to get paid off?
No, it's more like his range is much wider. So just because you flop the set doesn't mean he has anything. Whereas
if
when
you get
Patty Rich has aces or kings,
right. Go ahead.
On the Jack 5-3, you got threes. You've struck gold on your end and on his end. Whereas when it's Jack 5-3 and Greek John has 9-8, cool, you got your set of threes, but he's got 9 high. So you get no money. So you need to have the right.
He might check. You're going to check. He's going to bet one time. You come over the top or call once. He ain't putting any more money in the pot.
Right. Which now, because you only won one bet from him after flopping a set, you really lost on that hand. I mean, sure, you won, but your math did not check out to the risk that you took to put in that many big blinds pre-flop to win one bet.
Right. If you continue to do that type of play, it's not profitable, because you're not going to hit a set enough. You're not going to hit enough sets to make it worthwhile.
Yep. And on top of it, he's going to win pots with 9 high against you every time you whiff a flop.
Yeah.
Because he's going to see bet, and you're just like, nah, I got fives. I'm out of there. And then you just get owned over and over again for 10 big blinds, 10 big blinds, 10 big blinds. Well, cool. The one time you win his 10 big blinds and another 10 big blind bet, you win 20 big blinds, doesn't make up for the 14 times you bled off 10 big blinds. You lost 140 big blinds.
Right.
You need to make up for it all when you're banging against the kid's aces and he piles in 190 big blinds. Well, now you just made up for those 14 times you bricked. You really need to be careful, because I feel like I do it too in Hold'em, where you look down at the pocket pair, you're like, ooh, I'm going to set mine. You really need to kind of pick and choose when you're going to strike gold. They need to have the right money behind. They need to have the right player type. I mean, obviously, if you're 500 big blinds deep, it doesn't matter who you're playing against. Like, you're getting a good price to set mine. That's not what I'm talking about here. But when you got 20 bigs, when you got 20 bigs, and the guy makes it 3,000, you're supposed to have 15 times that 3,000. That's 45,000. You only got 20,000. Like, you're not getting the right odds. Just muck it. Like, you would much rather take that pocket pair and use it as like a 3-bet shove, a little bit of a bluff, more than you would to set mine. Because you can turn these small pocket pairs into 3-betting hands where it's like, all right, I'm going to ship over the top with fives. And if he calls with ace king or ace queen, we're flipping.
Right.
Or I can get my bluff through, and then obviously if he's got queens, I'm out of the tournament, which is the risk that you're going to take. But don't always set mine. Kind of do some monkey math in your head. Make sure they got enough money behind. If the guy has $60 in his stack and he makes it $10,
what type of player there is, right? Like, you got to put them on their 3-bet range. What is that particular player's 3-bet range? Where you got to have an idea. Is this guy aggressive? Is this guy pretty tight? What kind of player is he or she? Because you got to have an idea.
And each situation varies. The worse odds you're getting, the tighter you want that player to be.
Right.
If you're getting better odds, and sure, Greek John's going to go crazy with 9-8 of hearts on 9-5-3 when you got threes, and you're going to get, but you need to have the right stack size for that to happen. Compared to it's justified in every which situation, no matter what the player type is. You just need to understand which situation you're in, and if that narrative and the math fits the situation.
Nice. All right. Well, we're rolling at about 40 minutes. So I want to
I got nothing. Oh, I got one more thing.
Yeah, I wanted to get kind of one more idea here. And what's the last part?
Should we talk about implied odds? I feel like kind of we just talked about that.
Well, I mean, you can kind of base it on
really quickly. Implied odds, guys, is just you're putting money in the pot, even though you're not getting the correct pot odds at the time, but you are thinking that you're going to get paid off.
Correct.
On the river, or when you hit your hand, much more than the math is accounting for. So just because you're getting 3-1 on your money and you need to be 25%, as we talked about earlier, you say, you know what, I'm only 20% here, but when I hit that 20%, I'm going to get way more than the math is accounting for here. Maybe all the guy's whole stack, because I know he has a set and I know he's bad and I have a flush draw and he's never going to fold the set on the river when I hit my flush, because he's just never going to do it. So I'm going to go after that flush draw, thinking I can get the guy's entire stack and not just a river bet, which would make the math wrong. So that's kind of implied odds. It's kind of like looking into the future and saying, if all goes as planned, I'm going to get paid off much more. It's like Tesla at the beginning of the year. Correct. Everybody just buy Tesla and you're a millionaire now.
Maybe it's not great right now. It's going to go down first, but you gotta buy and sell the news. That's what you're doing.
So I think that the last concept of this is kind of simple math. I'm glad there's no like bound mathematics to it. This is all dependent, but like setting up river shoves is something that people don't even think about. And that's like super important. It's bet sizing. You need to not only be telling a story with your bet sizing, but you need to be sizing up the pot for your river shove. If you can never get the pot big enough to get all your money in, like what are you doing when you have good hands and when you have good bluffs? Like you need to be sizing so that you can possibly get all of your money in on the river. Don't just think about it as, oh, there's $80 in the pot. How much do I bet here to make it? How much do I bet here? Do I bet 40? Do I bet 60? Do I bet 80? Do I bet 50? Like these are all possible. Well, it all depends on how much you have in your stack to get it. Like it's especially so in PLO, you want to pot the river for your whole stack. So if you have $1,000 in your stack and there's $200 on the flop, you need to be like, all right, how much do I bet on the flop to where when he calls, I can bet the next amount on the turn and he calls, and now I have a pot shove on the river.
Right. I always think about when I think about like kind of implied odds or the reverse implied odds in the sense of like, and again, for me, I think of everything in PLO because I don't play enough Hold'em to have any idea of what I'm actually talking about. At least this way I can. I guess it affects, it's the same in Hold'em though. You know, if you're basically repping that you have a flush draw and then bluffing or not does not matter, and you're getting the right odds to call. Let's say you actually have a flush draw and those hearts hit on the river and doesn't pair the board, and you're pretty sure, I mean, obviously you're good. Like you're never going to get paid off there. Like in PLO, if I know the guy's he flopped a set of aces and I got an open ender and a flush draw and I spike my flush on the river, you're never getting paid by that set. He's never putting in any more money. So for me, it's always the idea of implied odds kind of works both ways. Am I going to get paid? Like, yeah, I'm a 20%, but I really need to be 25% to make this call, but I'm going to get paid off way more at the end if I actually get it. So it's worth being a little bit of an underdog here. Whereas on the flip side, yeah, I've got way good odds here for what I'm calling, but the problem is you're not getting any more money. I don't know. I feel like that, to me, really affects.
Right, you're calling with no implied odds because
zero. The implied odds are zero. You are not getting that person to put in any more money. It's the set mining effect all over again. You got a super aggressive player. He might fire one bet on the flop, and then if you call, game over, folks. He's not putting in any more money. You could check it down all the way. You might as well, because you're not going to get him to put in any more money.
So the math kind of evolves a little bit there when you're talking about those reverse implied odds, because you have to adjust for the fact that if I hit my card, how much more am I really going to get off the guy? If it's zero, well, that switches up the whole math.
Correct.
Because now you're priced out of a lot more stuff than you originally were.
Right.
Like when you're chasing the board pair on the
tournament
river
play, that's a really good idea, because like if you know the guy's short stack and he just made his bet and he's not, it's like, I don't know. Sometimes it's just get rid of him. I mean, if you're not going to get him, if you're not going to get paid off, then what's the point of doing it?
Right. So I want to go into just a quick example with what I'm saying with setting up river shoves. So like a good example and a bad example, then I'm all done. You can wrap it up. Talk to our sponsors. Get everybody out of here. Happy holidays. But if there's $100 in the pot and you have 1,000, and let's say there's let's say there's $200 in the pot and you have $1,000 in your stack and it's PLO. And you flop the flush draw. And now you size it up and you pot the flop for 200. And the dude calls. Well, now there's 600 in the pot because you had the 200 plus both your guys' 200s. Now there's 600 in the pot and you have 800 in your stack. So now we go to the turn and you pot the turn for 600. You brick, but you pot the turn for 600. He calls. So now you got 1,800 in the pot and your stack is down to $200. The river comes a brick. You can't bluff the river because you have $200 left and you just sized it up so poorly,
right?
That, I mean, sure, when you hit your flush, you're going to get paid off because the guy's never folding, but you size it up and you gave yourself no outs to win the pot twice by bluffing because there's 1,800 in the pot and you have $200 behind. Whereas if you play the
even
same
if he doesn't think he's any good, they might call just because like it's 200 into 18. I cannot fold. Like I have to see this.
It's 9 to 1.
River.
They have to be good 10% of the time.
Right. Can't fold.
Which goes back to so then if you take the same exact hand, there's $200 in the pot. You bet $100 on the flop. He calls. Now there's 400 in the pot and your stack is down to 900. And then the turn comes and you whiff. There's 400 in the pot. You bet 250 and the guy calls. Well, now there's 900 in the pot, and you have 750 left. Now the river comes a brick. You can jam 750, and you see how his pot odds changed. Now he has to call $750 on the river into 900, which is whatever, 7.5 over 9. I don't even want to do that math because I didn't do that math good. But it's way different than 9-1 that we had in the first example. It's
Which
not even 2-1.
He's got to be right 1 out of 10 times or 1 out of 9 times to be good. That's a pretty easy range to pick. Whereas if you're talking about 750 into 900,
he's got to be right like 36 or 40% of the time.
Way more than right. A lot more.
4 times. So the amount. So you have to really think about your bet sizing and don't just be like pot.
Well, it goes from a no-brainer to now I got to actually think about this and work out you can get that bluff through. I always feel like I do the $200 side where it's like, I can't fold. Like, even if I don't think I'm good, I'm going to give you $200 to make sure I can tell a story of how bad you played is worth the $200 in and of itself. Even if I think I have 0%, I am not letting you walk out of here without showing me those cards. I'm paying $200 to see your cards.
Yep.
Show me your royal.
Which isn't good for trying to get bluffs through when a guy just wants to see your cards.
I didn't have anything. I bluffed.
So just have some awareness of your stack size and what you're doing and why you're doing it. And most people are like, oh, I don't want to bet too strong. I don't want to get people out. You need to also worry about your stack size and getting to a river shove. And that's all I got for poker math.
I think the idea of poker math, which I really like, and it's kind of a poetic way to finish this episode, poker math is extremely important, and you should always, always, always try to play good poker based on the math. But on the flip side, poker is an art, and it's a little bit of you're telling a story here. And if your storytelling is good, you can have slightly bad math and still be successful. But the problem is you got to have a happy medium of both. You got to tell a pretty good story with pretty good math, and you could be a pretty damn good player. You know, if you're,
I agree. Even if you don't use the math, being aware of the math is the important part.
100%. Well, that's going to do it for episode 36. Thank you for listening. A big shout out to CCG Poker, as always, and Paramount Social Club in Houston, Texas. Let's not forget about them. We are going to have another episode called Houston is the New Vegas, and we might lose Brandon to the state of Texas, which is fine. He'll have lots of fun, and I could still see him at least once a month down there, so that'll be great.
Hey, 2021.
2021
Crazy
Brandon.
times.
Thank you for listening. Hit that subscribe, rate us, and review. Be good out there. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it, not losing all your money on the poker apps. If you are, send us a shout out on Twitter at the Overlay Pod. I think it is at the Overlay Pod. We're getting some more likes and follows, so that's great. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time. Bye, everybody.